well, first question is the replacement for Mike Macdonald on this staff? And Dre, I'll ask you that first. Do you think the defensive coordinator of the 2022 season is on this current coaching staff?
Yeah. Forgive me if I mispronounced his name. It's Easton, the defensive line coach they got from Notre Dame.
I think it's, let me see, Elston, Mike Elston.
Mike Elston, so close enough.
Yep.
Mike Elston, I think he's a candidate to possibly take it over. Here's the thing. This would not probably hurt as much if you had a situation like last year in which you did have most of your top players from defense returning, because they were familiar with the system, even with Mike Macdonald. Well, yeah, I mean they are familiar with the system, even with Mike Macdonald leaving, and so they can kind of keep things together. But now you're going to be playing musical chairs until you figure out who's going to fit where next season anyway. Now with a new defensive coordinator, who knows, if it's Elston or somebody else, they want to keep the same scheme or change things up. We don't know. Because I believe if I'm not mistaken, when Mike Macdonald first came in, wasn't his thought process was to flip his defense to a 3-4, right, from the 4-3 scheme that they previously were. I'm actually pretty sure about that. Yes, they did flip to a 3-4. Could have had Aiden and Ajabo standing up.
Yeah, I think his philosophy overall was that they were going to be multiple just due to the personnel that they had. But I think yeah, you're right. I think it was a base 3-4, but he mentioned having multiple looks out there.
Right. So I mean, like, is that going to be something that they keep? The multiple look and with a preference to 3-4, or do they go back to a traditional 4-3 that they've been most of the time? That's going to be that remains to be seen. So I think it'll be internal. I don't know at this point in this time of year if they're going to be, going out and plucking somebody else, a defensive coordinator, unless it's somebody that got canned past year who's looking for work. So we'll see.
Mark, what do you think?
Well, somebody here in the chat, I'll have to track down the comment, brought up
I think Coach Klink, right?
Yep. Coach Klink, Steve Clinkscale, who has only been on the staff himself a year, but it was an impressive year from the standpoint that the secondary was a mess the year before and played so much better this past season. His previous experience is at Kentucky, in which they had top 4 to 5 defenses in the SEC and had some excellent production there. And he churned out a number of NFL players there. So there's always that question of somebody being a first-time coordinator versus being an excellent position coach and whether they can make that transition. And sometimes I think coaches, meaning the head coach, makes that elevation because they don't want to lose someone, and they think that, okay, he's earned the spot, he's earned the shot at it. And most people, if they're good at something, can adapt and figure it out. So yeah, those are two candidates right now on the defensive staff that might be in play.
Yeah, I think if I had to make a call, I would probably say go external, and solely because I think so highly of the Michigan, that position, that defensive coordinator position. Like, I think you can go and get outside of maybe 5 or 6 defensive coordinators that are, at high profile places. I think outside of that, you can get any defensive coordinator that you want. And I think you're going to need to have a guy do a terrific job this year. And what I mean by that is we've said the talent that you're losing, but if you want to compete in the Big Ten and repeat with winning the Big Ten, beating Ohio State, you're going to need to take the potential that you have with the players, because Michigan's recruited at a very high level, but you're going to have to take the potential and realize that and get those guys to play, together and in a way that in a way that the team did this year. But with I don't think
that's
you're
the
going to have
case.
the same talent that this team
That,
had.
but if that's the case, then if you're talking about getting the most out of talent already on campus, especially in terms of incoming recruits, I think that's even more of a reason to stay internal because you don't know what impact I don't know how much more in 1 year, but still internally, you never know what impact why certain guys came to campus, and if you bring in somebody external and they want to change the schematics of this defense, that may not be what some of these players, want to be in, and that could, cause them to hit the transfer portal or, so
Yeah, but I agree with that, but I'll push back as well. But if you're Jim Harbaugh and you're doing what you're supposed to do, you're going to know the scheme that you're running.
Jim is too busy doing squats at school's gym. Okay.
Well, if that's the case, then yes, you need to hire internally. But yeah, I mean, you have the cachet as the Michigan coach to say, well, here's what we run now. I'm looking for a coach to run this scheme. Like you can run it your way, but this is what we're going to run. And if you don't want to run it, that's okay. That's fine. Then you can keep the current position that you have, and we just won't offer you.
Well, head coach is not even committed to sign his extension. His new
That's
deal.
enough. And we talked about this when I called you earlier. Do you think that had anything to do with Macdonald leaving? I personally don't, because I think that was a phenomenal job to be a defensive coordinator in the NFL under John Harbaugh. That is a phenomenal opportunity, but what's taking so long? I think that's what everybody is talking about. What's taking so long?
Look, man. I don't know. Look, we can, and it's going to be like that, right? We're all going to guess because apparently the offer is on the table. It's been on the table for a while, and he's taking his sweet time, and like he's waiting for something. But anyway, what's interesting is like. You're watching the NFL now, right? And that's why I can't blame Mike Macdonald for taking a job. For one, he's a young guy. He's 34 years old. The NFL is a young man's game, head coaching wise. Yeah, and essentially, if you're a coordinator on a really good NFL team, you do a good job, you are fast tracked to get an NFL job. I think Mike clearly has aspirations to be in the NFL, to be a head coach, and he goes back to the Ravens, has a couple good seasons. You may see him on the sidelines as an NFL head coach as soon as 2 years from now. Like it's different now. You don't have to wait and pay your dues for like 10, 15 years in the NFL before you get your first job, right? You got Luke McCown, who had Josh McCowns, with no coaching experience, essentially being interviewed by the Texans. Okay, so I'm just saying. Not to go all off on a tangent, but I can't blame Mike for doing it. Not at all.